Old Marin woke before the sun, the same way he always had. The difference now was that there was no field waiting for him, no horses to feed, no warm kitchen to return to. Only the cold room in the back of the abandoned train station, where the wind crept through the boards, as if checking to see whether he had survived the night. His breath misted in the air, a small, fleeting cloud. He pushed himself up, his bones creaking a protest against the morning chill. For 50 years, this time of day had meant purpose. It meant the smell of dew on the grass, the soft nicker of a horse waiting for its oats, the clatter of his wife Alara in the kitchen, her laughter a melody that started his day. Now, the only sound was the mournful whistle of the wind through the derelict station. He ran a hand over his face, the stubble scratching his calloused palm. He missed the feel of Ilar's hand on his cheek, the warmth of it, the unconditional love in her touch. It had been a year since she'd gone, and with her, the farm, the life they'd built from nothing but grit and hope. The bank had been polite but firm. Economic downturn, they'd said, words that meant nothing and everything. They had taken the fields he'd tilled, the barn he'd raised, the house filled with a lifetime of memories. They had taken his world and left him with a single worn-out suitcase. He pulled on his thin coat, the fabric frayed at the cuffs. Hunger gnawed at him, a familiar companion these past months. He would walk to town, to the bakery, not to buy, but to stand near the vent at the back, where the smell of fresh bread was so thick you could almost taste it. It was a small, pathetic ritual, but it was his. It gave the morning a destination. On his way out, he paused by a shard of a broken mirror he'd propped against the wall. The face that looked back was a stranger's hollowed cheeks, a web of new lines etched by worry, and eyes that had lost their light. The Marin he knew had been strong, his back straight, his gaze clear. This man was a ghost, haunting the ruins of his own life. He shook his head, pushing the thought away. Self-pity was a luxury he couldn't afford. It wouldn't fill his belly or warm his bones. He stepped outside, the pre-dawn light painting the sky in shades of gray and pale lavender. The abandoned tracks stretched Violencia into the distance, two lines of rust disappearing into the mist. He used to watch the trains salux by, their lights slicing through the night, symbols of a world moving forward. Now, they were just like him, silent and forgotten. He started his slow walk toward town. Each step was a deliberate act of defiance against the despair that threatened to swallow him whole. He thought of Alara. What would she say if she saw him like this? She'd probably scold him first, her hands on her hips. Marin, she'd say, when did you ever let a little thing like ruin stop you? Then she would soften, her eyes full of that fierce love, and she'd pull him into a hug. We're farmers, my love. We plant seeds in the dirt and wait. It's what we do. We find a patch of earth, and we start again. He stopped, the memory so vivid he could almost feel her warmth. He looked around. The station was a wreck, but it was shelter. The land around it was overgrown with weeds, but it was land. A small, stubborn idea began to take root in the barren soil of his mind. A seed. He turned away from the path to town and walked back toward the station. He knelt, his knees cracking, and pulled a stubborn weed from the ground. The earth was cold and hard, but it was earth nonetheless. He held the clump of dirt in his hand, feeling the grit, the potential. For the first time in a year, a flicker of the old Marin returned to his eyes. He wasn't a ghost. He was a farmer. And this was his field now. He had survived the night. He would survive the day. He would plant something.